Welcome back to ATV's special coverage of the election. Now, moments ago, President Obama won a decisive victory in this election. Now, I brought Editor-in-Chief of the Eagle, Zach Cohen, to help us out and look at how Obama did this. I mean, it's been a really rough ride for everyone in these past few months, right?
Absolutely. I think a bunch of us are ready for this election to be over for the most part.
Right.
But it was a tight race, really, to the end. I think I give Nate Silver at the New York Times a lot of credit for predicting a lot of this that would have on the map. But if you look at the popular vote, it's very close. If you look at the swing states, it was close. All of it was in the margin of error.
Right.
Really, everything was a toss-up. Ohio was a big player for most of this. Iowa was a big player. Nevada, Colorado, Florida, of course. So all of this was really up in the air for the most part. Now we can see that Obama has basically won. Ohio was a very decisive state for him. And when he got that, basically everybody knew right away that it was over.
Now, Ohio has pretty much been on Obama's radar for a while. Everyone's kind of been leaning towards him for that. But there are states like Florida where it came down to 98% of the precincts. And it was like 50% to 49%. Now talk about that a little bit. And like that's crazy with northern Florida being a very critical area for the Obama campaign.
Well, obviously Florida was a very big part of the 2000 campaign. It was part of the reason we didn't know whether we had a president.
That's what I was worried about coming up.
Exactly. You know, hanging chads 2000, I was worried about provisional ballots in Florida and Ohio and Virginia, where people who would go to those polls who didn't bring proper identification or didn't know the proper polling place, that was going to slow them down. But obviously the Republican counties in Florida were not enough to override the Democratic ones.
Right, right. And I mean, let's look at states like North Carolina and then also Indiana. Both states that I believe went to the Obama campaign last night. Or if anything, Indiana was narrowly lost by the Obama campaign.
I believe Indiana was Republican, was
right.
red
narrowly.
in 08, narrowly. North Carolina definitely was. And it's interesting because North Carolina was the site of the Democratic Convention just a couple of months ago. And one would think that having your convention in North Carolina really helps your ground game. It really helps get your supporters out there and really excited about your candidate.
It energizes them, if anything.
Exactly. And in a swing state, that's really important. And it was surprising personally to me that the Tar Heel state really didn't go Obama this time around.
Right. I mean, in 2008, when Colorado was starting to go blue, that's where they had the DNC that year. I mean, I remember right, I think it was a Reliance Stadium. Obama gave a big speech over there. Now, looking at the Romney campaign, they worked really hard. They were very strategic about it. They went to even states like Pennsylvania where they put so many ads.
A very last-ditch effort, too.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, no one really thought that Pennsylvania was a real swing state. It was more leaning toward Obama for most of this, but Romney seemed to think something other than the rest of us were thinking at the very end and did a lot more stops there, mostly in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly western Pennsylvania where it was really critical for the Romney campaign to garner some sort of, you know, electorate. I mean, they couldn't energize it seems, because eastern Pennsylvania with Philadelphia and probably northern Pennsylvania as well, that's where the Obama campaign mostly got their votes. Anything leading towards New Jersey.
Sure, and there was some hope there. Pennsylvania, especially in Appalachia, has really been hit hard by the recession. And with the fact that we've had a very sluggish recovery, should have put Obama at a disadvantage, but obviously that didn't turn out to be the case.
Now, right before we came into this room, we looked at Virginia. 98% of the precincts. Still not a decision. It doesn't matter, but it's still something interesting to look at.
I mean, we live so close to Virginia, being here in D.C., it's been fascinating for me. I mean, only recently Northern Virginia, Nova, has switched, and it's changed the demographics of the area a lot, and that's why it's recently become a swing state. Virginia has a lot of military spending, so foreign policy was a big issue for them. I remember after the horses and bayonets comment by Obama in the foreign policy debate, some of my friends who live in Virginia were talking about how people who live there were very upset by that. Now, any cuts to the military, it was not a political move, but for them it was deemed as an attack on their economic livelihood. And so there was definitely play there, and so that played a role. And also a lot of government workers work in Virginia.
Definitely.
Bigger government means more jobs for Virginia, so it makes sense that it would go blue. We'll kind of see how it happens.
Definitely. I mean, if you look at the geography of Virginia, it's northern Virginia where it's where the blue is. And then also parts of southern Virginia where it can go either way. We'll see if the Obama campaign can get southern Virginia. And I think they just got Fairfax County, which is great, which is a great thing for the AU Dems. AU Republicans, I know they worked very hard on that. And yeah, I mean, it's been a great ride for Virginia, especially watching it so close to us. I mean, that's been such a great no experience.
Absolutely.
Now, looking towards the West, I mean, Colorado, it was dead heat, 48% to 48%.
Right.
Nevada, it was declared, and also the rest of the West Coast. But why was Colorado a big swing state this year when it was kind of guaranteed the last time? I know there was the DNC the last time, but Colorado, going into the blue direction, now it's gone swing.
Right. Well, we definitely had that first debate in Colorado, and so that, a lot of people in Colorado paid attention to the Denver debate, which obviously was not Obama's best. That was the one where he was a little more sluggish. Al Gore said it was because he had altitude sickness, and so that's why he didn't perform as well. It's the only reason I can remember that the first debate was in Colorado. I honestly don't know why it was such a big swing state at this point. Obviously, changing demographics is always a key here when you're looking at what defines a swing state versus not.
And also the Wisconsin-Minnesota area. Major labor union disputes, also with the Scott Walker situation as governor.
I was shocked that Wisconsin didn't go, or at least that it didn't go red. You had Governor Walker, who really could have mobilized people there. He was at the RNC, and it just fired the entire crowd up when he gave all of the delegates to Romney. From Wisconsin.
Right, and I actually didn't hear much from Scott Walker in the past month, especially with Wisconsin being a swing state. I did hear a lot about Paul Ryan campaigning there. I think Mitt Romney was really betting on Paul Ryan helping him win Wisconsin, which was really key.
Obviously didn't work.
Also, Michigan, state Mitt Romney was born in and raised as well. Didn't win that.
And his father was governor there.
Right, but he was pretty much guaranteed to Obama the minute it was declared. I mean, I think it was mostly the auto bailouts. That was a big part of it. I think that also made Ohio go blue to a certain extent, too. There's a lot of jobs there.
I think if Romney wasn't from Michigan, it would have been solidly Obama for most of the time. It wouldn't even be a part of the discussion. But Obama has had a stronger record on, supporting the auto bailout. The New York Times op-ed from Romney about let Detroit go bankrupt, I think was the headline, which he didn't even write, actually. That was a copy editor.
Right.
The article talks about letting Detroit go bankrupt, but that's a little fact that people sometimes forget. But that certainly hurt him. It's interesting, nobody's really gone to Detroit. They, a little bit in the primaries, Obama and Romney were there, but for most of the general election, they basically avoided it, and I think they both knew that Michigan was going blue no matter what.
I mean, unlike Pennsylvania, it wasn't worth fighting for, apparently, for the Romney campaign. One last state, I think I want to look at New Mexico, which was pretty unusual that it's usually historically red. Suddenly it turns blue. I don't know the answer behind that one, though.
I can tell you.
Awesome.
Governor Richardson, when he spoke at AU, he said New Mexico has recently gone blue, mostly because of the influx of a Hispanic community.
Gotcha.
And Governor Richardson would know he was governor of that state and ran for president in 2000 against Obama in the primaries. And so that's the reason why we've seen that gone blue over the last few years.
Gotcha. All right, well, there we have it. Thank you, Zach Cohen.
Always a pleasure, Geet.
Coming around.
Sure
up next, we're going to look at some of the coverage of watch parties at AU. Get ready. See you again.